This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 86, the movie review of Abominable. We are also going to talk about the Frozen 2 trailer today. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is not my normal co-pilot, but I have a special guest co-pilot, Jackie.
Hi.
You don't have anything else to say? Just, hi everybody, that's it?
No, I'm here for the ride.
So, we've had a very interesting time here, and so Ian and I were supposed to do this podcast a while ago, but he decided to get married. And the thing is I was also invited to this this wedding. And so I ended up having to go through here, and we just didn't have enough time to get this podcast done. So now that it's been several weeks since Jackie and I have seen this movie, but it's going to be an interesting podcast to see how far we can get into it here, because it's been a while, so it'll be rough.
It's going to be great.
It'll be fine. So I guess the first thing we should talk about is the new Frozen 2 trailer. I have seen probably just the first teaser trailer. I feel like I haven't seen too much of an extended trailer yet. So the only thing that I noticed about this movie is that it's a very different style of movie. It seems like it's turning into much more of like an epic journey as opposed to the more fantastical thing that we got last time.
It definitely looks like they're going a completely different route. Now that Elsa's embraced her powers, it seems like she, instead of now being the almost destructor of her kingdom, she's going to be the savior of her kingdom, is kind of the impression that I'm getting. So it's going to be, I think, amazing. Like, they're expanding out the kingdom and the world that Frozen takes place in. Is it Arendelle? I think it's Arendelle. And
I have no clue.
What is wrong with your Frozen trivia? Whatever. It's going to be great. I've seen every trailer probably 3 times, and every one that is released, I get more and more excited. So I'm going to go see it with my niece. I'm going to go see it with my sister. I'm going to go see it with you. I'm going to go see it by myself. I'm going to see it all the times. I'm going to try to find a way to take my dog.
Oh, wow. There's no way that you would get little Melee there at all.
I'll find a way. Yes, he's a service dog, I promise.
Oh, yeah, right.
As he tries to eat everyone's hot dogs.
Yeah, he's not anywhere near that well behaved.
He could be. Maybe.
You know, the amount of times that I've recorded this podcast and Melee has made an appearance is pretty often, that dog.
It's because he's the best part of this podcast.
Yeah, So, we have, when I was watching this trailer, and, I mean, the only thing that I know of that I am less excited about is because, I mean, and the podcast knows this, is that I have to deal with Josh Gad again. The plus side is that I can't stand Josh Gad. I absolutely, everything he's in, I don't like him. And the thing is this is the most likable I know of him, is probably in Frozen and hopefully in Frozen 2. So when he's a snowman, it's not that big of a deal. I'm okay with it.
Such a good snowman.
Oh, jeez.
And he's fine in
Beauty and the Beast?
No, that was a train wreck. I can't think of another movie I've seen him in that I liked.
Because he's in a lot of bad movies. That's the thing. And so, I don't know. And I'll never forget when I first saw him, he was in that really terrible TV show, 1600 Pin, where he played the president's son. And it was just awful. He was just an awful character. And I don't think he's very likable as an actor whatsoever, but apparently people love him. Especially in Beauty and the Beast, people really love him. So people really love him when he's in Disney movies, I guess is what is what I've learned.
That people loved Beauty and the Beast at all is a mystery to me. So I feel like those opinions are a little invalid, but he's definitely... Whatever. I have a right to my own opinion. I'm sorry for all the hate mail I just got you, though.
We didn't even review Beauty and the Beast whatsoever, but both of us saw it, and I thought it was okay at best. I didn't. What's the best movie I saw that year for sure?
It was not the original Beauty and the Beast, but that got nominated for an Academy Award, so
it did.
What can you do?
It definitely did, right?
Kind of not fair.
Yeah, it did. So is there anything else you want to talk about Frozen 2, or do you want to go ahead and take a quick break and then get involved with Abominable?
No, I'm probably done with Frozen 2. I'm just so excited. Everyone's favorite, or a lot of people that I talk to are super excited to see Star Wars. And while I am also very excited for that movie to come out, I am definitely more excited for Frozen 2. And I say this as someone who loves Star Wars to the point that I read all the extended universe books and was a complete Star Ward nerd as a kid. Loved it. Yep. I could still recite half of episode 3, which is a travesty, but I'm still more excited about Frozen 2. Gonna take my dog, my niece, my sister, my boyfriend.
All right, okay, so I guess we'll just take our break then, and then we'll go ahead and get involved with Abominable. All right, Jackie, we're back. So let's get into Abominable here. So I'm going to start with the synopsis. So, synopsis is easy. A magical Yeti must return to his family. That's it. That's what it is, and then that's the movie. It's
so cute. I love it.
It's a cute movie, very simple story. This movie was directed by Jill Colton and Todd Wilderman. Jill Colton did Open Season, which was a really rough animated movie from a while ago. Was the last one that she directed, but she's another one of those directors of these animated movies that I enjoy because I'm also an animator. She was an animator. She did storyboard artist, and she did all these other things. And eventually, they end up getting movies. So she's been involved in animation for years. And it's really nice to see this happen. And this is really common in animated movies. It's also why you have Todd Wilderman here, who has a co-director, who actually directed Open Season 2, which is who Jill Colton was the executive producer of Open Season 2, which is the connection they have with each other, and she must have thought he was good enough to take him under her wing and give him a movie and help him out and help her out with this movie. And this happens a lot. So I always like to take a look at these names, because every once in a while you'll see these names pop up again. It's not unusual that 10 years from now you'll see Todd Wilderman doing another movie on his own that's going to animate a movie. So it's really cool just to see that as a behind the scenes thing. So this movie is starring Chloe Bennett as Yi. She's the main character, and she hasn't been in a ton of things, but she has been in Tinkerbell and the Legend of the NeverBeast, which I have never seen before.
Oh, that is such a cute movie. It's about this big monster that one of Tinkerbell's friends befriends, and then he has to go to sleep for eternity. It's really sad because it ends with them parting ways, but it's really good.
Oh my gosh.
It's one of the less good Tinkerbell movies, but it was still huge.
Wow, are there better Tinkerbell?
My favorite Tinkerbell movie is the Pirate Fairy one.
Oh my gosh.
It has Zarina, and she is this really cool pirate fairy who goes and befriends pirates.
It sounds like a lot of these Tinkerbell movies are characters befriending other things.
Yes.
Is that like a lot of... Okay.
Well, but no, because there's like an evil twist where the pirates were just using her for their flying dust. Because she's like a flying dust fairy. Because like fairies have different jobs. There's like the tinker fairies that make things. There's plant fairies who help grow things. There's the
Unbelievable
water fairies. I'm missing there's like speed fairies. I don't know what their point is, but they go real fast.
This entire thing sounds really rough.
There's like 5 Tinkerbell movies, and they're like, the first one is Tinkerbell wanting to be a cool fairy, but she's a tinker fairy, so it's her coming to terms with like being a lame fairy.
We cannot go through Tinkerbell movies right now. I'm going to stop you right there.
I wanted to educate you.
No. Don't care that much.
That's fine. They're on Netflix. Soon they'll be on Disney Plus. I'll make you watch
it. Fantastic. And so the other thing she was in is the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So she's been in that too. So she's had a lot of experience, but hasn't been in a ton of things, but she has enough experience to where she can handle this. Albert Tsai is Ping. He was in Fresh Off the Boat, Dr. Ken, and Coop and Cami Ask the World. Tenzig Norgay Trainor as Jen, and he was in Liv and Maddie is probably the best thing he was known for.
I love that show too. I only watch kids things, is what I've learned today.
Clearly, that's all you watch is kids shows. Some of the kids shows are good.
I've made you watch Liv and Maddie with me too, so it's not like...
I do not remember Liv and Maddie.
It's the one with the blonde twins.
Gotcha. Okay. I've seen that. The next one we have here is... I gotta move on. The next thing we have here is Joseph Izzo as Everest. This guy has been in a lot of things, a lot of animated movies, and a lot of, like, he's also like a crew dude. So, like, I think he spends most of his career as a production assistant or anything, but he does voice work also, and he usually does these little bit voice parts throughout these different movies. But this one's probably his bigger role because he plays Everest. But he was in Kung Fu Panda 2 and 3. He was in The Boss Baby, and he was also in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So he's got a lot of voice work, but he's always done like these bit parts, so it's pretty fun.
Did Everest have lines?
Yeah, he has lines. I mean, a lot of it is like...
It's just like him humming.
Sounds. It's a lot of sounds and things.
So he just says like the humming, the...
Yep, he does. Yep, he'll do like the humming sounds and all other stuff. I think
you get a voice credit for doing that?
Yeah, of course you do. What do you think? I mean, what do you think the Minions get credits for?
I mean,
the Minions,
they
don't have. They don't. I mean, they don't really say anything.
They don't see coherent things, but they say things.
No, it's just gibberish, and it's so funny
gibberish.
Because the funny thing about the Minions is that guy didn't even really get. When you watch the Minions movie, which made like $1 billion that year, that guy doesn't. The guy who does the voices for him is actually the director of the movie, and he doesn't get a credit. Like it goes right to like, was it Sandra Bullock? I think it goes right to Sandra Bullock, and then it goes like down, and he's like not credited at all, yet he's like a huge portion of that movie. It's like really weird, but he didn't even really get a credit at all.
That seems unfair.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's really strange. The next one we have here is Eddie Izzard as Burnish. He was in The Riches, he was in the Ocean sequels, and he was also in the Lego Batman movie as Lord Voldemort, I believe is who he played in that movie.
Huh.
Sarah Paulson as Dr. Zara. The only thing I really recognize her from is American Horror Story, but she was also in Serenity, and she was also in the Ocean's 8 movie last year that we did not get a chance to see.
Which is a bummer. I wanted to see it.
I wanted to see that movie.
She was in Goldfinch. We saw that one. She was like the...
We did see... You're right. We did see Goldfinch this past thing, which is like a slow, but it's a good movie. But it's like a slow burn for that movie.
It was a good movie.
Who did she play?
She was the, I guess, stepmom. Like the really terrible...
Oh, yeah, right. You're right. That's right. That's who she played. All right. The last character we have here is Sai-Chin as Nai. She was in the Joy Luck Club, and she was a Bond girl in You Only Live Twice, but she's also a stage actor, so she's been doing stuff for a long time, that lady. So I am going to go ahead and just go right into the Quirks and Likes section. So I'm going to go right in, and did you want to start with Quirks? Did you want to go first?
No, I go first. I'd like going first.
Go ahead.
So it's been weeks since we've seen this, as established.
Oh, yeah.
So something interesting that I learned that's not a quirk, but I think that it's a fun fact, is that this movie has been banned in multiple Asian countries.
Yes,
because
it has been.
The controversies surrounding the 9 dash line on the map that Yi shows.
It's in the South China Sea.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely something that came up, and it got banned in like a lot of different countries.
It's like Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines.
And I think the Philippines, yes, it did. That absolutely happened.
I thought that was so. It like popped up on my news feed on my app or whatever. And it's like, this little inconsequential movie got banned. It's like, that is crazy. Just because, and DreamWorks refused to remove it. So I thought that was, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's set in China. So why wouldn't a Chinese girl have that line on the map? But I thought that was interesting.
Yep. Pretty much.
But anyway, into the actual quirks. So I think probably my biggest problem with this movie was everything was just very convenient. There were like a lot of hijinks that they got out of because Everest's magical powers would conveniently appear and they would just be fettered off either with blueberries or I think like a sea of like plants.
Yep, it was a sea of flower plants. Yeah. They also had a giant dandelion that they rode away from the bad guys when they left Jin.
That's right. That was all these like convenient things,
that happened.
The light show at the tower that allows them to escape the initial helicopter.
Yep.
Like,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Convenient. I wish I had this superpower where, I don't want to go to work today. Superpower of convenience. It's a Saturday again. Woo.
Yep.
But no.
It was definitely one of those things where, like, I was just like, man, every time they got into like a really rough spot, something just happened, and I, as from terms of like a writing standpoint, I was just like, man, it's almost lazy. Like, it's creative, but it's almost lazy, and it like bothered me enough that I noticed it. Yeah.
Well, even Yi at the end, she's like flung to her seeming death.
Yes.
And she survives because she has some of Everest's hair on her violin or something.
Yep.
It's just like, okay, so now we're like transferring magical abilities via strands of hair. Okay. My suspension of disbelief only goes so far.
Yeah, it was enough so it was just, I noticed it, and usually when I notice it, that means it's probably gone too far. And so it really kind of made me a little bit upset about it, but it didn't hurt it that much, but it definitely was like, ooh, everything is very, very convenient that it happens. So
yeah, I mean, and I understand why it was like that way, because they're just these kids trying to traverse China. So how else would they successfully evade like these captors and also cross a country? So I get it. If in order for the story to work, they have to have powers of convenience. But as an audience member, it's just like, okay. And then the Jedi came out and took everyone else out. Why not? Like, we're just conveniently throwing things out there.
Yep.
And then another thing that I kind of was not a huge fan of, I didn't think that there was a lot of emotional depth in the story in general, but I feel like Yi herself didn't really inspire an emotional reaction from me. And I say this as someone who cries in 99% of movies. And this movie has everything that would make me cry. It has beautiful music, a cute little animal monster creature going on an adventure, and a dead father. Like, these things always, without fail, make me cry. And I did not shed a tear during this movie. And you just, like, it doesn't give you enough time to appreciate or get to know Yi, really. She's such a busy and closed off character that you don't ever really form a connection with her. And so you don't really feel for her when she, like, has her breakdown.
Yeah, and it's really upsetting because she has, like, there's a lot of time periods where you can have an emotional attachment with her, but it doesn't quite hit. And it's because one of my things that I noticed that I think would help a lot is she never really gets to stop and reflect on, like, her father's photo. I feel like she kind of looks at it for a second and then, like, closes the violin case because she keeps it with her. And it shows up fairly often throughout this movie, but you never get a time period for her to stop and really just kind of sit there and just kind of be upset about it. Like that he's gone. And you don't really get that in this movie. And I think that's a really easy scene to put in there. Just show her kind of reacting to the photo and you would get a better connection with her, but that's just not in her nature in this movie. It's not how her character is portrayed in this movie. So I definitely know what you're talking about. I definitely was just like, man, I definitely feel more sympathy for Everest than I do for Yi.
Definitely. And I mean, even when her father's violin breaks, she's like sad for like a minute, and Jin goes after her to like talk to her. And then you have like maybe 30 seconds of her opening it up, and then bam, violin is fixed. So you don't even really, she's sad for a second, problem is fixed, we can move on to the next convenient escape route.
Yep.
And really, on that note, I thought that all of the characters in general were really flat and didn't have any depth. So there wasn't really anyone to root for. I felt like I didn't really care what happened to any of them, like except for Everest.
I feel like Everest is the only one that you actually care about and you really want him to get back home. Yeah. Everyone else is just supporting characters around him, which is weird because Yi is definitely the main character. Mm-hmm. Like, the story follows her. So it's really disappointing that you don't really root for her as much as you do for Everest. It seems like Everest should have been more of a supporting thing, but that's not what happens. Yeah. It's more like your care is more about Everest than anything else, and it's like really weird.
And it's especially weird because they did go to the trouble to give Peng and Jin like backstories too. Like, Peng is like really concerned about wanting to be friends with both Yi and Jin and kind of just fitting in general, it seems like. And then Jin has like this perfectionist thing going on where he needs to like learn how to loosen up and not be a jerk to people, I think, if I remember correctly.
And that's what's so weird is you have those features in the movie, yet I think you sort of get a completion with Peng. Mm-hmm. But you don't quite get a completion with Jin. You kind of get a completion with Jin because they, obviously by the end of the movie, they're all hanging out more often. Because the movie ends with them all together. Yeah. But you don't really know what happens. Like, is he still doing, like, selfies at any given moment? You know? Like, is he, like, still trying to do all this stuff where he's, like, really self-absorbed? Is that still him? I don't know.
For sure. So and at the end of the day, I don't care. I don't care about any of these characters.
Yeah, and you don't care at the end of the day. Yep.
But those were my few big quirks.
Okay. So my quirks were the same thing. I have too much convenience. I think you never get to stop and I think Yi never got to stop and reflect about it, and really you don't really get that connection with her. The only couple extra things I have to say is I feel like the moral of the story kind of gets lost as this goes on. So as the movie continues on, it almost feels like you're getting more involved with animal preservation as opposed to having just a perseverance and trying to overcome adversity. And I feel like this movie was trying to show overcoming adversity, but then it kind of turns into this other thing because you have so many different scenes with them talking about how you treat animals in general. It's not just Everest. It's like all of the animals and everything. And that extra thing added in there, to me, I think helps muddy the waters, and you don't really get that extra feeling of the overcoming adversity. So I feel like that's where the movie starts, but then it kind of changes, and then the overall opinion is kind of just how we should cherish these creatures for who they are and kind of leave them alone. And it feels like that by the end of this movie, especially with the Burnish character, because Burnish kind of is actually like the soft spot. He has like a soft spot for animals, and he actually cares, and he actually changes his mind at the end of the movie. And you get the opposite with Zara, where you think that she cares, but really she's terrible. Which, by the way, is one of my other quirks, is I didn't trust Zara at all. Like, immediately I thought she was the villain.
Well, yes.
I was just like, this character, this is one of those characters, this is a character that shows up in animated movies more than I would like to admit. But it's a character that it's that whole being kind of submissive and acting like you don't really have anything to do with anything, but really you're like the evil behind it all. Like, that happens a lot, and I feel like the only one I can think of off the top of my head is this happens in Zootopia with I don't remember that character's name, but the sheep character.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember her name.
She has a name, but you're right. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, can't remember her name.
But it happens in Frozen too.
Yeah.
Hans
right?
is definitely the bad guy, but you don't... I mean, I knew he was the bad guy, but...
Well, yeah. But it's to the point where, like, I've seen that in enough movies, specifically animated movies, where I'm just like, man, this is starting to turn into kind of a trope. Like, it's a thing that just kind of is happening more often. And so I was just, like, a little bothered by it. But again, it was a quirk, so it is what it is.
I think that you're wrong about the purpose of the movie. I don't think that yes, like, the message is be kind to everything.
Yes,
all
that is
living
absolutely
creatures.
the message.
But I don't think that was the purpose of the film. I think it was about, like, learning how to grieve in a constructive way. Because before she goes on this journey, Yi is just, like, working her tail off. And
yes, she
is like abandoning like her friends and her family, and she doesn't have any time because she's like so set on earning money to do this China trip to honor her father's memory that she's like kind of just letting the rest of her life slip away from her. And as she goes on this journey, she grows, and like I feel like she comes to terms that her father is always going to be with her, and she's able to more constructively grieve so she can go back home and be a good daughter, granddaughter, and friend. And so I think the story is more about Yi's journey with her emotional reaction to her father's death, as opposed to, I feel like most people going to the movies, I hope, are like, oh no, we shouldn't be killing innocent, cute little animals. I feel like that's just a given.
I mean, yeah, of course you would think that's just a given. The thing about it is the way this movie's conveyed, and we just talked about this because Yi, you don't care so much about Yi, that everything you just said, I totally makes sense to me. Even thinking back and watching this movie, it definitely seems like she's grieving in the wrong way, and she's trying to grieve in a more constructive way. But the way the movie is laid out in front of me, I don't really capture that. And I think that problem is with Yi herself. Like, you don't really get that connection with her.
Oh, I guess I agree. I can see, like, where you're coming from. I just think that that's the message that the movie's trying to portray. I just don't necessarily think it did it well.
Okay, so that's where I can agree. I think the execution is a problem. But I mean, I think that's what we've been saying this whole time too. It's like some of the execution of this story is rough. And that's just kind of how it is. And I don't think it necessarily hurts the movie really badly. It's just, there's definitely things they could have made better to basically make sure that we get a better message across and that it's more obvious, so that we don't have a conversation like this where I don't really know what message they're talking about.
Yeah, so, I've seen this movie compared to How to Train Your Dragon, like, a lot of times, in terms of, like, a movie that did it well versus a movie that could use some improvement. And I think that part of what makes How to Train Your Dragon, like, such a compelling and fun story to watch is that Hiccup forms, like, this really good bond with Toothless. There we go. Sorry. It's like, he's a dragon, he's adorable, what's his name? With Toothless. He, like, has this, like, really strong bond, and you root for both of them. And I feel like that's what's missing from Abominable. If Yi had a better bond with Everest, like, I feel like I would care so much more about her. But instead, most of the Everest bonding is done with, like, Peg. Like, he spends most of his time palling around with the little boy. And Yi's kind of just, like, around the same age. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that that's also part of, like, the absence of emotional depth is that she never really connects with Everest either. And that's kind of sad, because who doesn't want to connect to cute little abominable snowmen? They're so cute. Yetis.
All right. Do you have any likes?
Yeah, I do. So I am a music person through and through. So the soundtrack was phenomenal. And the scenes that accompanied the music were gorgeous. I definitely got the trademark chills during the scenes where they're overlooking the mountain and she's playing her violin, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to go, like, be in this exact place and learn how to play violin and have this magical moment. It was so gorgeous.
Yes, and there was a lot of scenes because they're going across, like, China, and they have so many, like, beautiful scenes that I think is, like, really just, I think they're really trying to show how beautiful the country is. And I think definitely that they do succeeded. It really well. Yeah, it looks beautiful. And, like, the use of, like, lighting and color is so good in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, they did such a good job. Even when Everest starts doing his powers and seeing the extra boost of color and the extra, like, swell of things happening around it was just, like, so pretty. So it's a really pretty movie. It just really is.
I was ready to go book my plane ticket as, like, when we left the movie. I was like, this is not that compelling of a movie, but I want to go visit China now. So, but I love the music. I thought that the soundtrack was very on point, and it felt the emotional tone that the rest of the movie was trying to reach. Yeah. So the music got there. And then another thing that I loved, some of the humor was actually legitimately funny. The whooping snakes cracked me up every I'm just, like, thinking about it. Whoop!
The whooping snakes, you know, I have that on my likes too. That's one of my major likes in this movie was these stupid whooping snake characters. Like, they show up at the very, like, almost at the very beginning of the movie,
and
because
just
it's like when you first, yeah, it's like they're first introduced while you meet Burnish. I think it's when you meet Burnish the first time, he specifically says, she goes, well, you have those really rare whooping snakes. And then in that scene, it's hilarious because they're trying to capture them because they're getting away, and they're just like whoop 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 whoop, and they're just like trying to get, and they're
get those whooping snakes out of here.
Get these whooping snakes out of here. And so what ends up happening is they capture as many as they can, but the scene ends with like two of them kind of just going whoop whoop. They're still around, and then they keep showing up throughout the entire movie around Burnish, and it was so good to like cut some tension out of the movie every once in a while. You have this little snake that's just like whoop. I even laughed at the really stupid joke where it was like whoop whoop whoop, and the guy goes, there it is, and I was like, that's so stupid. That's a stupid joke, but it's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny and so dumb.
It's so stupid. It was like such a stupid thing to put in this movie, but I loved it.
It was easily my favorite part without even like, I would go see the movie again just to watch the whooping snakes.
Yep. Whooping snakes were good.
And then great scenery. We touched on that. That's also one of my likes.
Beautiful scenery.
How could you not? It's showing the best of China in like beautiful colors and vibrant detail, and it definitely makes you want to hop on a plane and just go visit the country and see it in person. And then, because I'm me, I of course loved that we have a strong female lead, even though I didn't particularly care about her. It's nice seeing one, and more importantly, because I'm also me, it was nice seeing her not hook up with anyone and like not having any romantic interest. It was nice just seeing her like be her own character with her own, like, she has a purpose. She wants to see China and also get Everest back home. So she goes off on this adventure very selflessly and is very focused on getting him there regardless of the dangers that she encounters. And even though I didn't personally connect with her in the film, I still think that it's a good step in the right direction for female representation in movies.
Yeah, and I definitely think that somebody will relate and connect with her in this movie. I don't think it's one of those things where the audience just can't do it. It just wasn't much of a connection in terms of how the movie does it, but I'm sure there's somebody that will look at her and just connect with her, especially with her like really strong like work ethic. Like she was like hustling. Like she had like 20 jobs trying to like save up and get this taken care of, you know. And I think a lot of people can like relate to having to like do something like that to get what they want.
For sure.
Is that all you have?
Yeah, those are my likes.
All right, that's I don't have any more likes. I feel like the thing is we discussed like my likes are the beautiful scenery, the whooping snakes. I enjoyed like the music and like we've already discussed everything why I liked it. So I think we should just go ahead and just rate this movie and then we can go ahead and sign out of here. So I'm going to say that this is a very fun, it is a cute movie for kids in the family, and I don't think you can even see it now, but I definitely think when it comes out, just like rent it. It's like a really fun kids movie, and I think that that's all they were trying to do, and it's totally worth a watch. So that's what I say, rent it.
I definitely agree, rent it. I think that if you got little kiddos, they'll appreciate some of the childish humor. And
yeah, there's a lot of childish humor.
I think if you're anyone like me, you'll love the whooping snakes, and I totally think they're worth a watch because it's so funny. And then really, I think if you go into it just like knowing that you're going to see beautiful scenery and hear beautiful music, it'll be very enjoyable.
Oh, yeah. All right, so to rent it. So I guess we're going to go ahead and get out of here then. So I'm going to sign out. So if anybody would like to contact us, you can always contact us at our home on the web at halfpastpodcast.com.
We're also available on Facebook.
We are on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify.
Also on Stitcher, Libsyn, and TuneIn.
You can always email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and email us. And then see if you want to hear Jackie again on the podcast.
Oh, I'll be here. I'll fight Ian for Frozen.
We'll see what happens with Frozen.
It's going to be a fight. If it's Ian, just know I'm dead. Or also you can tweet us at Half Past Podcast.
Yep. I want to thank everybody for listening, and thank you for your support. And I'd also like to thank Jackie for coming here and filling in for Ian on this one because he decided to get married, and he didn't have any time. He didn't have any time whatsoever to get it done while he was trying to prepare.
Boo, it's not like weddings take planning or anything.
He was so busy and so nervous the whole time. I gave him a break and I didn't harass him about getting this one done. And so
you're a better friend than me.
It was nice to have you here to kind of help fill in. So the only thing I could say is that I would like to say that next week we're going to have another movie, but we're doing these completely out of order because I made a very interesting mistake and have all the numbers incorrect. So this is definitely number 86, but the next one we'll be recording will be it'll probably be 2 or 3 episodes from now. So we'll see what happens with that, but I just think it was just a messed up time period. It was a very busy time period with Ian and his wedding, and congrats Ian on your wedding, man.
Congrats. We're happy for you.
It was a fun wedding. We're all happy for you, man. Somebody finally married you. You're crazy.
Mean.
Well, he's not here to defend himself, so...
I'm defending him. Don't be a bully.
Oh, man. And with that note, this is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy. Just kidding. I'm Jackie.
See you next flick.